want to dance the mask, you must service the composer. You gotta sublimate yourself, your ego, and yes, your identity. You must in fact stand in front of the public and God and obliterate yourself.
Hello, and welcome to Mix Presents Sound for Film Awards Season. I'm Tom Kennedy, editor of Mix, and we're here to talk about Tar from Focus Features. It premiered theatrically, I believe, in October, available on streaming services now. Todd Field's newest picture featuring Cate Blanchett, the story following a maestro through a career-defining performance. Joining us today, we are fortunate to have the picture editor, Monika, Willi. We have the re-recording mixer, Deb Adair, and supervising sound editor, Griffiths. Thank you for joining us, everybody.
Hello.
Mona, we don't often get picture editors in these conversations, and I certainly know how crucial they are to the sound job. In particular, this one, to me, it's establishing the tone of a 2-hour and 30-minute movie that's often a quiet movie, but has incredible tension throughout. It builds every bit as much as if there were vehicles and weapons, but a very different type of track that's very full. In working with Todd Field, was this discussed early on in sort of establishing the tone of the film?
Yeah, I think that even most of our editing time went into sound editing. I think this was the bigger part of our work because sound is so crucial to this film, and it is so important for Todd to have it set right. And we tried to have it right or near to right already in the cutting room. So we worked together very closely to Steven and his team already during the editing. So we sent scenes back to him, and he and his team worked on it, and we got it back so that we knew how it would sound in the end.
And you make a very conscious decision in the beginning. We have a black screen for a time, and we have voices and some effects, and then we have a long credit run with a black screen and a song. These are intentional choices. Do you remember talking about the opening?
This was always meant to be like this. I think it's very important, especially for this film, to really get people in the mood, to really calm the audience down and set it up for the film.
The film song. Steven, one of the also establishing, anytime you need established tone, you needed environments. And here we're in Berlin for a lot of the movie. Now we go into hotel rooms, we go into apartments, but how did you capture the sounds of Berlin and sort of make that the backdrop?
Well, we were very conscious of how the environment and the sounds of the environment affected Lydia. I mean, it's through the sound world that she really responds, and it's be it through the misophonia, the way that she reacts to things which can be in some ways irritating or that is out of the ordinary, but also then you earn the silences in the film. There's a lot of great contrast, obviously, with the orchestral musical moments. But it's interesting how, I mean, Todd had a very definite idea about how each location should sound, and we worked a lot on. And a lot of that is to do with, I mean, for instance, where Lydia lives with Sharon, that's a very almost brutalist concrete construction. It's hard edges. It's the quality of the dialogue reflects that, and literally in the reflections off the hard surface. But it was a very one of the great things about working with Todd, and as Mona was saying, it's so much thought has been given into how an environment should be, both in terms of the picture and in terms of the sound. So we would try lots of different approaches. We'd send mix downs up to Mona. They'd have them and work with them within the tracks, and then it would come back and we'd change them, or we'd talk about them. But there was always one of the fantastic things with Todd is he's got everything. There's a reason for everything, and it's like for instance that you're talking about, the opening credit sequence. I mean, not only does it work as a way of getting people into the right. Not frame of mind, but they relax into the movie, and then they kind of move towards the screen rather than, this barrage of sound that hits them. Everything is about trying to get people to move towards the screen, to pay attention for those moments which really have importance and emphasis.
And I think the way dialogue is treated adds to that. I mean, because for instance, the conversations feel very different in her apartment with Sharon versus her apartment with the piano, and she goes away to practice and everything. We almost have a different tonality there. I mean, is that something that you tried to achieve, or?
We worked very hard on it, but it also is a fantastic job by our Roland, our sound recordist. But then Deb did lots of work on the tracks to. It was a very everything was intensive. Everything was thought about. It's kind of I would say it's the most intensive mix I've probably, or actually the whole process. I mean, it was actually the mix itself was relaxed because we'd got into the kind of the way of the process of working throughout the editing, and then in the temp mixes as well.
Deb, would you agree that the mix was relaxed? First of all,
there are scales of relaxed.
If you could talk. Yeah. And if you would continue about the dialogue, because I was impressed. I mean, and I thank you for giving a shout out to the production sound mixer, because I thought the way it stood in various rooms or even in a restaurant, there's an intimacy to this dialogue that at first might seem cold, but it's also very natural.
It was very important to Todd to be true to the acoustics of every environment that he shot in. And he really wanted to recreate that, or not recreate, but be true to the acoustics of each environment. And again, Roland did an amazing job recording the tracks.
And then at the mix, did they fit right in? I mean, do you have a lot from production? Do you have all that, the background effects and what Stevens provided? Or were you doing a lot of manipulation at the mix?
Not a lot of manipulation, to be honest. The natural environments just were recorded so well. It was amazing. Kudos
to Roland. One of my favorite environments, if we could go right to a scene, Mona, and I'll come back to you with this, is the early on in the film, she's asked, when we're in Confident Lydia phase, she's asked to address the students at Juilliard. And to me, it's a wonderful scene, but horrible for the kid that she's sort of dressing down. Wonderfully edited. Could you talk me through that scene a little bit, Mona, and how it fits into the movie?
Wonderfully edited, an 8-minute 31er, which is really where you see the whole the magnificence of Kate Blanchett's performance. And coming back to, and this is the same as with all the dialogue. I mean, the key word for Todd was always that we have to lean in, to not, put the things in front and have it very TV style mixed, but really to have the possibility to lean in, to fall into the scene, to have the differences in the loudness, in the intimacy or not intimacy of a scene. And I think the Juilliard scene is one spectacular example of how different in the same room the voices are sounding and the approach to the dialogue can be.
Stephen, can you talk to me about how you sort of designed and put together the footsteps, the piano,
Well, a lot of work done by Andy Shelley, the dialogue editor, on this scene, because it was because there are the dialogue edits that go unnoticed, and that way of actually making there's Foley from the sync track, from other sync tracks. It's all very, very naturalistic, so that there's nothing that comes out at you that hopefully it feels incredibly real and present, because it's such a scene where you follow Lydia Tarr around. You want to be absolutely you are dragged in and follow her and led by her, and you see everything about it. I mean, I think that scene encapsulates her character so well, in that she shows both her incredible intelligence, her charisma, but also her Achilles heel, her arrogance, and her she does that awful thing where she humiliates a student. She can't stop herself from going too far, and she acts as a bully, and she humiliates a student, the worst thing a teacher could do. But also that bit at the scene where she's at the piano and actually mimics the playing of Glenn Gould and Lucy and from Peanuts, and kind of like, she's incredibly winning as a person. Actually almost wins him over, and then it doesn't quite work, and then she can't quite face the fact that she's just hit that concrete wall. But there was some difficulty, because that's all alive, her performing on the piano, which Deb had to do a bit of work on as well, because we had a mic hidden in the piano, but it's all that's the reality of Kate playing there. It's
an outstanding sort of walkthrough. It's almost like a short story within the movie. I mean, Deb, could you comment on that scene?
Andy Shelley did an amazing job on that scene, because it is a oneer, and the boom is moving with her, and he did a lot of really intricate work, and that when she walks up to the piano and starts playing, having that mic hidden in the piano was really, really helpful in the mix, to be able to have her speaking and playing at the same time. Took a little bit of manipulation, but again, great job by Andy putting that all together.
Well, what about the rehearsals? I mean, these are amazingly shot and done scenes with the orchestra and the practice and preparing for Mahler's Fifth. Mona, do you want to start to talk to me about some of those sessions?
This was the first thing I did edit for this film, because I was present at the actual recordings. These were the first shooting days, and my assistant ran always between the cutting room and the shooting place, back and forth. We did cut it with the down mix of, I don't know, let's say 16 tracks, but in reality there have been 50-track recording by a Netherlands special team, and it was our amazing sound editor, music editor Jared, who did then the balancing of these 50-track recordings and of course it was not easy, because we did cut between different takes, of course, and so it was his job to balance all this out.
And certain featured instruments, when they cut to them, I mean, certainly the cello becomes key.
Yeah, I mean, it's adding to what Mona said. Usually there would be a mix done from those the 50 tracks, the 50 different mic positions that the specialist recording people from the Netherlands did. They would mix it down. We wanted to keep everything live and everything manipulative, so we could manipulate it still in the mix. So Gerard McCann, who was our music editor, was able to really give Todd whatever he wanted in those situations, because nothing was everything was live. Essentially, you could go into that particular mic at that particular moment and emphasize it or pull it back, and so there was a lot of time spent on the working on the orchestral rehearsals, because of getting those other little elements of movements around the auditorium and the different instrumentation.
I'd like to talk about the use of silence. I think, because to me this is a tense film. There are times when it's very tense. You're awaiting what's coming, and but there's times you cut away and there's really no sound at all, just a visual and a sad cape or something. And there's other times you cut back and it's two people talking, but there's moments of silence that are peppered with distant sounds. Misophonia, I think you said. I love that word, Stephen. But could you talk to me about how silence is used to build tension?
I think it's all about the concentration on the characters and not being distracted by too many sounds, and to build up the intimacy in many scenes is possible only by being silent. And I think this emptiness in sound is really something that gives you the opportunity to focus on what's happening.
I think the really important thing is what Mona was saying, is that the essential word there is focus. That the sound is all about concentrating on a particular reaction or a particular atmosphere, and also I think that it's very, this is, you earn silence in a film. In a way, if it was just arbitrary, it wouldn't contribute anything to the aesthetics or the dynamics of the film. But hopefully, in this film, rather than, it's not just a question of contrast against the loud moments or the more aggressively musical moments. It's really about how the effect of the quiet scenes actually bring you in to concentrate on what's important in that scene. So hopefully as well, we were very directional with, it's not just, there's not a soft bed in the surrounds of atmospheres. It's meant to be, it's quite almost harsh at times, and it's very directional in the panning. And that's all, again, deliberate. It's very much about hoping that you won't sit back under a warm wall of sound. You'll be. It's like when you're talking about that little bit of unease that comes from Hilda's score, where and there was a great thing that Todd said to us in the mix. He said, I want to feel the score, not hear it. It's just something that makes you a sense of unease, I guess, and it's and hopefully that, so that when you almost notice it more when it stops, and then you kind of relax because you've realised you've got a bit sort of. So it's hopefully these are working on a psychological level. That's the intention anyway.
Can you talk to me about how, when that silence and when that tension breaks? It was Mona. We'll sort of conclude with this. What's it sound like when the tension breaks and the meltdown comes?
Well, it was interesting. It was interesting on that. We shot some crowd ADR and some reactions, and but it was interesting how it worked, placing them around the auditorium. building up the reactions, and then it was for some of the actual physical body hits. Mona and Todd actually did some recording up in Scotland, and we did some work as well to augment this. But they got quite kind of violent on some. There's some very lifelike body hits, which I don't need to know how you managed to find that, but yeah, there was so those. There are a lot of things in that, and then we worked around them, but which Todd and Mona recorded. So it has there's a kind of, again, there's a roughness to it, which works in contrast to this immaculate, stylized environment of the concert hall.
I want to thank you for joining us. It's an excellent film. And to me, it's a perfect example of how a quiet track is every bit as challenging as a loud and aggressive track. This is the tension that builds up to this. I really encourage the audience to check this out. It's a stunning performance and a fantastic sound job. This is around. Oh. Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Focus Features. And remember, go vote for the Oscar shortlist, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks very much.